In this episode, listen as Caleb Callahan, President and Chief Operating Officer of Valmark, interviews David McKechnie, a Valmark member since 2003, on the changes he's experienced in his career and the trajectory of his business since he founded his firm. The interview goes on to discuss where his firm is today as a Valmark member, making clever correlations to the famous Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. McKechnie is the Managing Partner and Chief Investment Officer of Beauport Financial Services, located just outside of Boston. Beauport specializes in wealth management and estate, business, life insurance, and retirement income planning. Mr. McKechnie's financial services and insurance expertise spans over 30 years. Notably, he has been a qualifying member of the $1 Million Roundtable for 20 consecutive years and was named Investment Professional of the Year by Valmark from 2005 to 2008.
Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing my good friend and longtime member of the Valmark family, David McKechnie. And I am very excited for our conversation today. David, let me start by just saying to you, thanks so much for spending this time with me.
Glad to be with you, Caleb, as always.
So, to set the table for the topic of our conversation, let me share with our listeners how we came up for the idea for this interview, because I'm pretty sure the Valmark members listening are scratching their heads after hearing the title we came up with. So let me explain it briefly. David and I had the opportunity to share dinner over the holiday season, and over the course of conversation with our wives, the topic of all-time favorite Christmas movies came up. And David was quick to respond that his favorite film of all time is It's a Wonderful Life. And as dinner went on, we enjoyed talking about life and family, etc., and eventually talked a little business. And as David shared how different things would be if he never joined Valmark, the idea for It's a Wonderful Life Beauport Financial Services edition was born. Is that about right, David?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I love that movie. You know, one of the things that you may not know about is that I actually, like Clarence had to take a run at, is it George, several times. I actually joined Valmark for a second time in October of 2003. And you might say second time, what's that about? Well, the first time was actually at the end of 2001. I was working at New England Financial. I had signed up with Larry to come to work at Valmark, and another offer was put on the table for me at New England Financial that was very difficult. I was born and raised the right way, and so I went back to Larry after signing all these agreements and said, this is what my old broker-dealer put on the table. And Larry told me, hey, this is too good an offer. You should take this. We have got great chemistry, but the timing isn't right. And he kept communicating with me over that period of time. I couldn't believe that he did what he did. So many things happened. Promises that they had made didn't work out again. We had gone through a pretty nasty recession at the end of 2001 into 2002 and 9/11. So everything kind of happened for a reason. And here we were, a year and a half later, joining Valmark, and never looked back after that. But I never forgot what Larry had done for me in that period of time between 2001 and 2003.
Well, I didn't know that full story, so I guess it is more like the movie than I even realized. Well, you talked about New England. Why don't you share a little bit about what your business was like before you joined Valmark?
I worked for a really good, it was agency for Bay State Financial Services at New England Financial. I had always gravitated at a young age to the investment business. We were just starting to figure out recurring fee revenue. 40% of our business was in life insurance and about 60% was in the investment business. We had no financial planning processes. I had a staff of 2 people, no life insurance or annuity processes, that were going on, and I was basically a sales guy working for a major agency of New England Financial.
So as you think about that time in your life and in your business, we'll get into our parallels here with the movie. What do you think would have happened if you would have stayed with New England's BD and had never moved to Valmark?
Oh, goodness. We had already gone through a lot of the travails of the insurance-owned broker-dealer, the lack of investment there. We had already done 2 or 3 internal conversions. We were at Fidelity, and we moved over to Pershing. There was all sorts of internal things that were going on, and I can't imagine what it would have been like going through 2 more conversions consolidating all the broker-dealers into MetLife Securities and then turning around and having MetLife sell its business and its sales force to Mass Mutual, it would have been very different. There's a whole element to trusting someone or lack of trust and how much energy goes into always looking over your shoulder all the time about what is either the broker-dealer or my general agent doing to me this week, this month. And you spend an awful lot of energy, negative energy, looking over your shoulder. And since the day I started with Valmark, I think I got like 40% more jump in my step because I've never looked over my shoulder since.
Well, thank you, and we're certainly glad that you made the jump. Talk a little bit about what Beauport looks like today, if you would, now that you're 15 plus years into the transition to be part of the Valmark family. What are things like for you guys?
We're 7 to 8 times bigger than where we were starting into the beginning of 2004 to where we are today. I'm a staff of 6 full-time people plus 2 advisors and a whole cast of staff and support from Valmark. We're about 70% recurring fee revenue from the investment business, TOPS, Access, etc. We're about 5% in planning fees and growing that business, and about 25% in life insurance, estate planning, life insurance with long-term care riders, and the accumulation aspect of life insurance. So we feel like we're equally proficient in both the investment and insurance business.
Well, our relationship certainly is the proverbial win-win, and you've invested a lot in us, serving on our member advisory board and really just being a part of the different initiatives and innovations we've undertaken over the last 15 years. But as you think about your success, looking back, what were some of the most critical things that happened in your business over that time to bring about these results?
I went from life insurance or investment advisor to owning and running a business. And I had a lot of counsel from outside consultants, Larry J., other folks within Valmark, and being introduced to Marty Miller, who we have kind of plugged and played with over the years as a business consultant. It was the greatest challenge, and it's been the greatest reward, building up staff, leveraging these consulting relationships through both Valmark and Marty, helping with staff and processes and job descriptions, very valuable stuff. We have leveraged all of, Valmark doesn't come for free. We all pay fees to work with this broker-dealer, and we've figured out a great partnership to leverage all of the major processes that Valmark has come up with over the years. Risk and ARC and the policy management company, all the technology recommendations, the investment business using exchange-traded funds, and more to come as that portfolio continues to grow in breadth. Those processes and using the consultants, really helped, and it allowed us to continue to grow. I had to stretch myself, to figure it all out, and it's been a great run.
It sure has. The line comes to mind, independent but not alone. It's really one of the core values that we aspire to have with our members. We also really talk about the business model, and you mentioned leveraging a lot of Valmark's unique processes and services, and may not be the best fit for all firms that have built their robust staff and have large overhead and payrolls. They may want to recreate all of these things themselves. But for the firm who's really looking for a strategic partner to create leverage, we really believe we're the best in the country at that. So, well, let's talk a little bit about the future. What do you see next for Beauport?
Right. Well, the hardest part of doing this little call was, who's my Clarence and who's going to get their wings for doing all of this for me. And, I couldn't come up. I guess Larry would get his first set of wings, but there's just been, both Valmark and its member firms, starting with Larry and Cheryl and you and Michael and great business partners, within the Valmark family, these Valmark member offices. I look at these folks as some of my dearest friends now. We travel together, both on the Valmark conferences, but we do other stuff throughout the year, and we learn from each other and teach each other. And so there's been a lot of Clarences in my life here, but to kind of look forward, I've built out this infrastructure, and so it's time at 57 years old, I'm looking to hire a a couple of young advisors to mentor and bring along with the two folks that I'm already working with. We're still spending time, with select CPAs and attorneys. We're servicing the heck out of our existing client relationships with the recurring fee revenue, which leads to referrals. And then we're plugging in a lot to the community now, like Valmark, giving 10% of its profits back into the community, if you will, through its member offices. We've done that here at Beauport Financial, too. It's probably been one of the single most feel-good things that we have done, as a firm, and getting the buy-in from my partner and staff. And it's been, we've been good corporate citizens by doing that. So I'll still serve on selective nonprofit boards. We're helping to build a brand new $30 million YMCA in our community that's almost done. And I'm looking just to stay relevant and stay on the cutting edge with good educational opportunities, as our business continues to keep changing and evolving. I'm excited about the year or two ahead.
Very well said. And I can attest to your comment about having more than just business partners, that member firms have become your close friends. We tried to record this a week or two ago, and turns out you were actually skiing with one of those good friends who happens to be out in Southern California. So as recently as 2 weeks ago, you were out away enjoying not just the opportunity to build a business relationship, but a personal one. Before we wrap up, I just want to express personal gratitude to you, to your wife, Elaine. You mentioned charitable giving that Beauport does. And just for the sake of our listeners, I know I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I just would like them to know the fundamental role that you've played in helping Valmark's Global Gift Fund, particularly with the service work we do in Jamaica at the West Haven Orphanage. You and Elaine have gone year in and year out and been faithful supporters and contributors of your own time and money, but also with the newer adventure, Rwanda, and building the Christian Academy, Kuvu Hills Academy. I just want to say thank you so much, David, for all that you and Elaine have invested in and will continue to invest in on this important work we're doing together.
Yeah, it's awesome, paying it forward. And it's been a great, faithful learning experience for both my wife and I and our children. And, and there's a little bit of a sense of adventure in there as well. But you can also affect people not just in your geographic area and wonderful country we live in, but also globally as well. So it's been a lot of fun to be involved in that.
Absolutely. Well, that is all the time we have. I appreciate you investing with us today, and hopefully maybe we'll do this again before 15 more years. Maybe that'd be a good idea.
You bet. Love to do it.